My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine Cristani with another episode of Willow Healing Matters, and today I am here with Gretchen Schoser. So she is a mental health advocate, a podcast host, and an entrepreneur whose journey began after a life-changing mental health crisis in 2022. She co-hosts the award-winning podcast Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. I love that. And where she and Dirty Skittles use humor, honesty, and expert insights to normalize conversations around mental health. Gretchen also hosts The Survivors, a powerful new podcast exploring mental health through the lens of suicide, survival, and loss. In 2025, she founded Schoser Talent and Wellness Solutions, a company dedicated to helping small and mid-sized businesses foster emotionally healthy, high-performing workplaces. Through storytelling, community building, and tailored wellness tools, Gretchen is on a mission to make healing conversations and workplace well-being the norm, not the exception. So a big welcome to the show, Gretchen, and what an array of accomplishments that you have going on in your life at the moment.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. But those accomplishments came from a really tough place in my life. And I'm so, I will tell everybody every day, I am so grateful to be alive. And that call to 988 saved my life.
Yeah. Did you want to share a little bit about that? Because I feel people need to know your story. We share as much as you feel too, but I feel people just need to know your story. Yeah.
Sure. So the last quarter of 2022 was probably the hardest quarter of my life, even harder than when my mom passed away. And I had a whole bunch of crap fall in my lap in a really short period of time. And at the time, I was 59 and a half. And it started in September, late September. I got a notice from work that said I was eligible for early retirement. And always that should be a good thing. But, for my age, it reminded me that, there's still ageism in the workforce. It was going to be really hard for me to get a job. And I like my bougie toys. I like my iPhones. I like my iMacs. I wanted to be able to still have all of that. But I was also really unhappy with where I was working. So it was a blessing in disguise and a scary thing all at the same time. And then my wife ended up getting shingles, and she was down for 8 weeks. I hit and killed a deer, and then I got catfished. But what you don't know is I am a complete extrovert, and I am also an empath. So all the bad things that were happening, I was just absorbing and not taking care of myself. And that was just in the month of October. In November, I lost a really good friend of ours unexpectedly. My father-in-law passed away 2 days before Thanksgiving. And during this time, work is slowly taking away things for me to do. And it's a company I'd worked for almost 15 years. And so as the days were dragging on, I didn't have anything to do because all my tasks, all my calendar invites were getting taken off my calendar. And then comes December. And in December, I had holiday depression. I had seasonal depression. And it was really, really, really cold here in upstate New York. The coldest winter in years. And then I went to New York, and I had the most unexpected things happen, like things that were super out of character for me. So nobody really saw what was going on. And I hid my depression because I didn't know what it was at the time, what was going on in my head. Being 59, I've been taught my entire life, we don't talk about stuff, right? We just push it down, keep going on with our day, and, just keep showing up. And that's what I did. I kept showing up for everybody else. I couldn't show up for myself because I didn't understand what was going on inside my head. Like I would show up to, work smiling and laughing and being happy. And on the inside, I just wanted to be done. I, all the pain from everybody else was coming up, and I just couldn't find my footing. And I couldn't explain what was happening because I didn't understand it. So Christmas morning, I woke up and I just wanted to go for a drive. I just kind of wanted to get out of my head. And I went to go to my car, and because it was so cold here, the cars wouldn't start. It was minus 22 Fahrenheit. Super defeated. I came back in the house. I don't even think my wife knew I was home. Went back upstairs, sat on my bed, and I had a bottle of pills on my nightstand. So I took the bottle of pills, emptied them in my hand, and as I was sitting there, just wanting it to all end, I had a small glimmer of hope that said things were going to get better. And I had remembered a couple of months ahead of time that there was this phone number here in the U.S., and it was 988, and it was a suicide and a crisis line. It's like, what the hell? Like, it can't hurt to call these people. Maybe they can figure out what's going on in my head, because at this time, I was literally 20 minutes within taking my life. I picked up the phone. I called 988. The woman that answered that call was the most compassionate person I've ever spoken to in my entire life. She was able to give words to these voices that were going on in my head and these feelings. And like, it was the first time that I felt like somebody really saw me. Because as extroverts, we are masters at wearing that mask. And if you are an extrovert and you're doing that right now, the only person you're hurting is yourself. Open up. And it's hard. And for my own self, I could say how hard it was. But after that conversation, I was able to go downstairs and talk to my wife. And she was mad. She was mad that I didn't share with her what was going on. But I didn't have the words to tell her what was going on because I didn't understand it. And so, if you're out there, please know that you are loved, you are wanted, you are needed, and there is a way out. If we can just keep putting, one foot in front of the other, it's worth it, because my story didn't stop there. That glimmer of hope turned into this massive amount of goodness, things that I never even realized that would happen. And somebody explained it to me, you reap what you sow. So all that goodness I put out in the world my entire life finally started flooding back to me. And it was like an avalanche. It was scary. So the day after all that happened, I actually opened up to social media. I have a pretty huge following. Just, everybody loves Gretchen. I don't know why, but everybody loves me. And I wanted to let everybody know what was going on. And after I did that, I got about 200 private messages thanking me, because now people didn't feel so alone and terrified in their own journey. So that was one of my healers. My second healer was my co-host, Dirty Skittles. And I'm going to use this term super loosely. She was my manager at the time, but I retired in April. So this was in late December, January. We call each other every day before work and laugh. And we would laugh about things you should never, ever, ever, ever laugh about. But here's what happened. When we would do that in the morning, it released our cortisol. It, increased my serotonin, increased my endorphins. So no matter how crappy the day was going to be, it changed the trajectory of the day. And if something crappy did happen, we could go back and laugh about it. We did that for a month, and then mid-January we were having a conversation, and she's like, hey, we should do a podcast. So my two healers were sharing my journey and laughing. So on February 14th, we dropped the first episode of our podcast, and the joke truly was on us. We were like, oh, we're going to do 3 episodes and call it a day.
Here you are with the second one.
And then we released the third one, but we released on Valentine's Day because in 1997, I had buried my mom on Valentine's Day, and as part of my healing journey, I wanted to change the trajectory of that day and turn it from something really horrible that I hated every year to something really cool. And so I did that. And then come April of 2023, our podcast got like 10,000 downloads, and we were like, "Who's listening to us?" We are so not clinical. We're never scripted, and we're just like, cutting the rug and laughing about, life's, well, hindsight
Life's
is
shit.
life is shit. And you know what? You can go back and laugh about crap that happened, right? Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't funny at the time, but it's super funny now. And that was my healer. And, things just kept getting better. Like, I retired from work. I got to take an amazing trip to Europe for 3 weeks. And then I got bored. So then I went back to work and did work for a real small consulting firm and got to do the things that I loved. And, I was originally going to work, full time. And when they found out I had a podcast and they liked it, and they're like, why are you working full time? And so, well, mama needs insurance. So they offered me 30 hours a week with full benefits. And that was all well and good until November of 2024. And the small consulting firm I had worked for got acquired by one of the top 5 consulting firms. And I was like, hell no, this is not going to happen again, because I had already had PTSD from the prior company when we had gotten acquired. And I was like, no, this is not going to happen. But this time, I got really super depressed, but this time everybody knew what was going on, because you can only hide resting bitch face for so long before somebody tells you to turn your camera off, right? And I was like, I can't. Like, I can't turn this off. Okay, this is the face you get. We're going to just come to work every day. And so towards the end of December, my wife and I were in New York City just for the holidays, and she knew how depressed I was. And she's like, we were at dinner, and she's like, quit. And I'm like, wow, I had an out. Because I had wanted to quit, but I didn't know how to approach it, right? It's like, we don't really need my income, but like, quitting, I didn't think was an option. I was like, okay, cool, this is great. So, like, that huge, heavy weighted blanket got shed off my shoulders. But then I got started thinking, like, I want to work. So on the way home from New York City, I forgot how long it takes to de-ice a plane. Thank God it takes like 2 hours. But I was sitting on the plane, and I had my resume, and I had my phone, and I had ChatGPT. So I just threw my resume into ChatGPT. And I said, based on my 45 years in corporate America and everything I've done with a podcast, like, form an independent consulting firm. And about 2 minutes later, it came back with this amazing job. I took out about 2/3 of it, because you know what? At like 61 now, I'm like, I don't want to do any of that. And came back to work on January 2nd, put in my 2 weeks, and people were shocked. I'm like, can you not read the room? Like, did you not understand how unhappy I was?
RBF, people, RBF.
Yeah, like, do you not see this? Like, RBF instantly disappeared, and that same day I, registered my company with the state of New York and the federal government, and I officially launched my company on January 22nd of this year. And so, like, I want my story to be a story of hope, but there was a lot of work that went in from December of 2023 to now. Like, I still go to therapy.
It's so interesting you say that, Gretchen, because I ran a masterclass a couple of nights ago, and I was sharing my story, but mine, and thank you first of all for being so vulnerable and sharing that so openly, because like you said, sharing your story is what helps other people heal and not feel alone as well. But I was sharing a bit of my story because I didn't have depression per se, but I had anxiety and panic attacks and all those sorts of things from running a company. And I was sharing where I am now. Like, I had the quit, but the quit wasn't from my husband. The quit was from my intuition. And my soul just said, you need to quit your job. And I was like, okay, where's the money coming from? And then it's like, don't worry about it. And the things that have opened up, like you said, because you get all these blessings that come from just trusting that and doing that and following that passion that you have. But this person said during this masterclass, she's like, oh, you have so much good luck. And I was like, this is not good luck. This is putting in all the work. This is learning, and my coach likes to say failing forward. This is failing forward, picking yourself back up and keep going, because it's that courage and conviction to keep going. And people do get to the state that you were at, that, and it's so fortunate that I always say it's earth angels that come to you, right? Like in those moments, like that the fact that you remembered the number, and the fact that this person that came up said the words that you needed to hear in that moment. And I never think anything's coincidental. I always think it's just part of, God, universe, divine, whatever you resonate with, but it's always part of that plan to keep you safe and to give you that hope that you need. And it's still your choice in the end. You can choose to let that sink in and be the message that you need in that moment, or you can choose to continue on the path that you're on. But in the end, you always have that choice, and the universe will move to protect you and allow things to happen. And in the spiritual world, what you kind of went through, we call it the dark night of the soul. And I call it round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4,
because it never stops.
Exactly. It's just like the same lesson, but in a different thing. But in the same time, we learn and grow from it, and it doesn't feel as harsh, So when you went back to that depression again, like you said, people knew about it, and you weren't going to get to that extreme state because you'd already started talking about it, and people could read you more because you weren't hiding behind that mask anymore.
100%. Like the mask, it has its good parts and its bad parts. The bad parts is like nobody, like I said, when I opened up on social media, people were terrified because nobody knew how depressed I was. And there's a lot of people out there that are high functioning but are depressed. And so one thing I'd like to tell your listeners is just be kind, because you absolutely have zero idea what is going on in somebody's life. And if you are an extrovert, open up, tell people what's going on. Like if you don't have somebody, contact a crisis hotline. They're free, they're anonymous, and they can help you kind of figure out what's going on in your head. There are crisis hotlines all over the world. And the third thing is, if you are friends with an extrovert, somebody that's always the life of the party, check in on them, ask them questions that we actually have to answer, and not just a one-liner. Like people would ask me how's the day going, and my standard response would be living the dream. But if they'd asked me something that I would have actually had to think about and answer, that one question could actually save somebody's life.
Yeah, and it's such an important point, because we're so defaulted to, when you asked, how are you? You're so conditioned to default to, I'm good. And it's funny because with my coaching clients, I'll say, you are actually dishonoring yourself saying that if you're not good. You're actually breaking your own trust, because you are saying words that aren't true for you. And when I started paying attention to that, I caught myself, and I'd say, I'm good. Actually, no, I'm okay today. I said, I've got a lot going on in my life. And the people that I would say that to, they would often go, I don't know how to handle that, because you broke the script. You
Right.
weren't doing the normal thing. But I'm like very, one of my gifts is I can see straight under people's masks, and people would show up and I'm like, are you okay? And they're like, yeah. I said, you're not. Are you okay? And they'll be like, oh, actually, this, and this has happened. I'm like, well, that's a lot. Do you want to talk about it? And this, especially for years working with high needs clients, like a lot of my background's as a speech language pathologist. So I worked a lot with children with autism spectrum disorder. So a lot of those parents are at wit's ends. And sometimes I'm like, you know what? I got this today. Why don't you just go get a coffee? Why don't you just go have 20 minutes, 30 minutes to yourself? You can trust me with your child. Go. And they're like, thank you. Because sometimes that's the only time they would have a break because of whatever reason and that sort of thing. And like you said, being kind and also being curious and actually caring about people. It's such an important trait that we kind of forget sometimes in humans, because we get sucked into our phones and we get sucked into technology and we get sucked into, oh, someone else will ask or someone else will do it. But what if no one else does do it?
Yeah, so true. And, the other thing that I was thinking about is, there's a great Simon Sinek video out on YouTube. It's called 8 Minutes. Sometimes we just need 8 minutes, and we need those 8 minutes for you to listen with your ears and not with your mouth, because we don't need your advice. Sometimes we just need to air something out. So if somebody reaches out to you and says, "Hey, I need 8 minutes," find those 8 minutes, because those 8 minutes could save somebody's life. Same thing with asking the right questions. And for me, I can, like you, I can kind of read people. Being an empath sucks. It's good sometimes, but a lot of times it sucks. But like, two of the things I learned how to set up during therapy, which were life changers for me, were number one, setting boundaries. So if you haven't set those now, don't wait until you're 59 and a half to do it. And and if you're an empath, learn to put your shield up so that you are not having the life sucked out of you every single day.
Yeah.
Those two things were lifesavers for me, and I use them without a doubt every single day. My wife said something to me the other day. She's like, "This is the happiest I've seen you in 20 years." And the reason is because I'm still healing. I think that I will always have a little bit of depression maybe.
Yeah.
And I just get to do the things that I want to do. Like, I don't answer to anybody right now. The other day, I wanted to go take a nap, and I turned to myself. I'm like, "Hey, boss, can we take a nap?" And the boss is like, "Sure, why not?" So, I get to do the things that make me happy. But like I said before, it took 2.5 years of really deep, hard therapy. Yes, I've lost some friends because I've changed.
That's what happens.
Some friends are here for a reason or a season, and
a cycle or a lifetime. I say a reason, a season, a cycle, or a lifetime.
Of time. And the thing with our podcast is, like, we blew up. We completely blew up, and I don't know why. I still want to know why y'all listen to us, okay? Because we're not clinical, but we won 2 awards, and we hit 1 million downloads, and we're listened to in over 80 countries. But we've had people come back to us and say it's like sitting around the campfire, just shooting the shit with your friends and talking about life stuff. And we've had every kind of guest on there, and when we record on our Saturdays, it's like free therapy for us. Like, Dirty Skittles and I have learned so much about ourselves, and like, she is my absolute best friend. And I'm so thankful for her and for all the little things that have happened, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like, I wouldn't take any of that back, because I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't gone through that hard stuff and really dug deep. And started my company at 61. Like, who does that? Okay, like,
why not? Why? Like, this is. I thank you for bringing that up, Gretchen, because I have had some people older. Let's say, I don't want to say older, but I have had guests in their 60s, in their 70s, and they are some of the most remarkable people I've met, and they're still living life to the fullest. Because I think, why the F not? We're all heading to the same place. Why not be happy? Like you said, wake up in alignment. And when you were sharing your story, I just kept hearing your soul aligned now. You are living your purpose, and here you found what you need to do, but you had to go through all the shit to get there in order to do it. Because if you hadn't gone through all that, you wouldn't have been inspired to create your company, to create your podcast, and to share your message with the world.
Yeah, I want people to see me as, like I said, a story of hope. There is hope out there. I mean, like, even on that darkest day, I found hope. I was literally within 20 minutes of taking my life. And I'm so thankful to be able to be here and to share that journey, and share my life lessons, and help people not make the same mistakes I did. And I just finished the first manuscript of my book, and as I was writing it, because I wrote about my experience, it's a memoir, but it also has, like, self-help tips. I laughed and I cried, but if you ever want to learn about yourself, write a book.
Mm-hmm.
It was so cathartic, and I'm so excited to be able to share this with the world. Right, I share it through our podcast, but very teeny tiny bits and pieces. And I had a friend reach out to me in February, and she's like, you really should start going on podcasts and like telling your story because people need to hear this. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. So I feel a lot more comfortable in my own skin because, like on our podcast, I only share bits and pieces. Nobody knew the true story, and I get to share myself with the rest of the world, and it's kind of scary, but whatever. I'm gonna wing it.
Well, you're writing it into a book. Everyone will know the story soon, Gretchen. Doesn't matter.
We're gonna wing it. Hope you like it. I am gonna self-publish because I want it to be my authentic voice, and I want people to, yeah, I cuss a lot in the book, but sometimes the only word out there to use is a cuss word. Okay, there's no other noun or adjective that works well. But I'm thankful for people like you, Catherine, that are out there sharing these messages because you know what, we're one world. And right now, the world is completely on fire. Like
we were just talking about this before we got on. Exactly. It needs to burn down because, there's been a lot of, it's funny because the last run of clients, not clients, I'm so used to working, the last run of podcast guests I've had, the theme's been mental health. And the biggest thing is talking about getting better systems so that people don't get to these points, and having better support and having better access to therapies and that sort of thing. Like you said, it's hard work, but you have to be willing to change, and you have to be willing to be in it as well. And if you need help with self-publishing, we could talk because I've just self-published my own book, so we'll chat.
For sure.
Yes. But I'm conscious of our time, and we need to talk about your company because this has been birthed as your little baby, which I'm very excited about. So do you want to share about what it is and what it does?
Yeah, so it's funny. So my company has two sides to it. It has a technical side, and on that technical side, I work with two pieces of software that are produced by UKG. And I worked there for 15 years, so I'm certified, and I do like recruiting and onboarding, and I do implementations and training and system reviews. But then we have that whole other side of my business, which is my wellness business. And I'm so proud of this because it was birthed from a really dark place. And, I've had 45 years in corporate America, and I know how corporate America treats their employees, especially when it comes to change management. They're always focused on that future state, but they are not looking at that transition state when people's emotions are high, when they want to know why somebody's not all in. So I work with companies on like burnout, stress management, like how to, mental health toolkits to make sure they have those things in place so that if people do need a mental health day or, need to, contact an EAP or a crisis hotline, they have those resources available because mental health is a second thought in 90% of the companies out there. And so I get to take my expertise because I'm not licensed in anything. I'm licensed in life. All right. And so I can take that and help companies. And so I was really fortunate when I started my company. I had a customer within 2 weeks. Like I hadn't even pitched my company.
Because you're aligned. This is the beauty, right? This is the universe working, saying, Gretchen, this is what you're meant to be doing. Here's a client. Here's an award. Here's 1 million viewers.
Yeah.
This is you being truly aligned and in your purpose. I love it. I love it so much.
It's the wildest ride ever. You reap what you sow. So, I'm a big personality, love my friends, huge hugger. And then all of a sudden, like, life is sending me back stuff. Like, it's an avalanche. It was a little trickle, but now it's an avalanche. So every time I go to pitch new work, something falls in my lap, and I'm like, wow, this is cool. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Show me more. That's what I say.
Please make it rain.
No, I just say, thank you, show me more, Gretchen. Thank you, show me more. And by the way, I'm just asking for another miracle. Could you make this happen too? Thank you, show me more.
Please show me more. Yeah, exactly. And I'm really, really lucky. My wife and I celebrated 30 years at the end of March.
Congratulations.
In a lesbian relationship that is like 100,000 years, it feels like. But, I had somebody in my corner, and I've had people in my corner my entire life, just cheering me on, holding me when things are really, really hard and allowing me to be me. And if you have those people in your life, hold on to them, because when things get really, really dark, they're the ones that will make you feel better.
Yeah.
And, the great thing about the podcast world is, we are not geographic bound. You get to hear us all over the world.
Yep.
And so if somebody is struggling out there, please know that there are crisis hotlines all over the world. If you are not sure where to turn, you can go out to the helphub.co. It lists every crisis hotline in the world.
Beautiful.
And additional resources. And if you're in the United States or Canada, contact 988.
Yeah. If you're in Australia, you can call Lifeline, which is 131114. Yeah. So, yeah, all over the world. And, sometimes it might be if you notice your friend or you don't notice your friend or you just have an ick feeling. Like for me, I will just message people, and 100%, nearly 90% of the time I'll message someone. They're like, you always pop in my inbox right when something's going down in my life. And I was like, because, when people pop into your head, just sometimes sending that message to check in on them and like, hey, I was thinking about you, how's everything going? It can be a chance for them to open up, like you said, Gretchen, and it can be a chance for them to share something or create that 8 minutes so that you can have that powerful conversation. And even if it's just via text, sometimes it might be enough just for them to get it off their chest, especially, if people are surrounded by children or their life or whatever. Just having that outlet to be able to text somebody that they know is safe and that they know they can share that with can be a really powerful position to be in. But in terms, not a position, but like it's a powerful exercise,
It is.
If they pop in your head, send them a message. It takes a minute, not even, how are you? Thinking of you, and that can be something so changing.
And what I've been doing is on Sundays, I do self-check, self-care Sunday. So I will go through my phone and I will text everybody and be like, hey, how's your Sunday going? How's your mental health? And for the people that don't respond back to me, I'll pick up the phone and call them, because I want to make sure that people are okay. It's not just about me, it's about everybody else. And something I've started since January of this year is I have a new routine. So every morning I get up and I watch a funny video for like 20 minutes, because that kind of sets the tone for the day. And I just like to laugh. And then after I do that out loud, I say something I'm grateful for, because gratitude is a huge thing in my life. And I still call Dirty Skittles. I call her every single day. So
I love that. And I love that, you brought up watching the funny video, but it's about, lowering those cortisol levels, like you said, when you started sharing that. But for someone, it might not be funny videos. It might be going for a run or doing a workout. I do push-ups against the wall because I find that brings me back down into my body really, really quickly. It gets me out of my head. Also good for your lymph system on a side note. But then the gratitude practice, like you said, there's so much evidence now showing that it does change everything. It changes your energy. And if you can't think of something to be grateful for, it just can be even, I'm thankful that I have a bed to sleep in, or I'm thankful that I got to breathe air today, or I'm thankful that there's a tree outside just find something to be thankful for. And then those are the days that gratitude will help pull you through the rest of your day, And if people are being mean, or like you're at work and you're finding that difficulty getting through, find fun things to be grateful for. I remember listening to this coach, and she said her boss was really horrible to her all the time, and she's like, I've got to change this. And she was writing things she was grateful for, and then she realized she had to actually aim the gratitude at her boss. So she's like, it was really hard. So she'd write things like, I'm grateful her shoes match her outfit. And I'm grateful that she shows up on time. And I'm grateful that she's nice to her child, and she said what happened was because she was sending this great gratitude energy, the boss actually left her alone. Still not a nice boss, but actually left her alone so she could just be in her happy place doing her work, which she was really passionate about. So, it's really being mindful of those things. Like you said, gratitude, such a powerful practice,
And the other thing too is remember self-love and self-care. Yes, they're buzzwords, but
Yes.
that's exactly what I did. I didn't do. I didn't take care of I didn't have any self-love. I didn't have any self-care. I cared about everybody else. As empaths and as extroverts, you know what? We need to take care of us.
Yeah.
Whether that's going outside, grounding yourself, washing your face, standing up and saying, hey, I love myself today. You know what? There's nothing wrong with that. And stop talking mean to yourself, okay? Because we talk worse to ourselves than we talk to anybody else. So when you're doing that, be like, is this something I would text to somebody or say to somebody I love? Love yourself.
Yes.
Love your life. Yeah, it might be shitty today, but it may not be shitty tomorrow.
Exactly.
It's all what we put into the world. And, it's okay to be depressed. And it's okay to not be okay. But please, please, please make sure you're talking to someone. Do not hold it in.
Yeah, 100% well said, Gretchen. And as we start to finish our time together, I asked the guests that come on the show, if you could heal or change one thing in the world, what would it be? Just one.
If I could heal or change one thing in the world, I just want us to all get along.
Yeah.
That's all I just want everybody to get along.
Yeah. Perfect. And if people want to find you or your podcast, where can they find you, Gretchen?
So they can find out more about my company at schosersolutions.com. And if you want to find out more about the podcast, you can go to goesonourheads.net. We are on every single platform in the world. We are getting ready to do an episode of Ask Us Anything. So you can go out to our website and there's a little microphone in the right-hand corner. You can ask us a question, and on one of the next episodes we record, we'll answer your questions.
Love that. That's really cool. What a cool way to engage everybody, and then people can ask their questions. I love that. Yeah. But I'll make sure to include all of that in the show notes as well so that people can find you. And Gretchen, thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for being honest, and thank you for being you and sharing your time and space with me. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really, really enjoyed my time.
Done. Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.